Steven should have seen it coming. The Census and Excise Office, they took one look at his paperwork, saw the word corpus, and marked him for immediate extraction. Before he knew it, he was dropped behind the ghost fence, left to live out the rest of his infected days as a will-less member of Dagoth Ur's lobotomized army. But he didn't have corpus. Stephen Corpus just had an unfortunate family name. Here's the deal. The only way for Stephen to convince the world he isn't infected is to put this corpus issue to bed once and for all. That may not cure everyone, but surely, with the threat eliminated, the Empire and the Temple would cease their quarantining measures. Stephen could then freely reintegrate into society. His name would just be an oddity. Oh, by the way, Stephen's a Nord, so he has the kind granted power to sort of control the weather by yelling at it. All the ash storms do is strain YouTube's compression algorithm, so Kind's kindness doesn't go unnoticed. The Thu'um is truly mystical. Our first priority is finding a weapon. Any weapon would do, but we took Longblade as a major skill, so a Longblade would be the most useful. There is one weapon I've got my eyes on, but we can't get it quite yet. We need some way of levitating first, and that'll take a bit of doing. Following the path up Red Mountain, taking the western fork around the volcano, we dodge the Ash Slaves and the Corporus Stalkers until we arrive at the vampire citadel of Endosal, Kagranak's study. Normally, you'd come here to loot Kagranak's journal if you are interested in jury-rigging Wraithguard. There's no way for us to even get the unrigged version of Wraithguard, so that's a non-starter. Instead, we rush past the Dremora, regret not taking Shortblade as a major skill, since this dead body has a Daedric Wakizashi, and continue past the Ash Slave into Dagoth Endis' chambers. We aren't able to kill him, and even if we had a weapon, we'd also have to deal with all the other enemies chasing us. Instead, we loot... Damn it! Stop! We loot this ebony longsword. We feign looting this ebony longsword, drawing Endis around the pillar, and then we swipe the alchemy equipment. I don't know what alchemical ingredients might be lying around the mountain, but if we could find anything that can make healing potions, we should take advantage. With Endis sufficiently juked, we can circle back to the other shelf and take the glass boots, the ebony longsword, and the bone mold cuirass. We took heavy armor as a major skill, and bone mold is medium and glass is light, but it's better than nothing. Escaping the Citadel is a bit tricky due to the Dremora's fireball spell, but we smartly took restoration as a major skill. This starts us with Hearth Heal. The cast chance is pitiful, but Morrowind ain't nothing but a gambler's paradise. We won the roll this time, surviving the damage and escaping the dungeon with a strong weapon in hand. The lack of fatigue potions, or really any way of restoring our fatigue, makes combat a bit difficult. Resting is our only real option to regenerate fatigue quickly, but we're pretty much always in combat because Red Mountain is a hellish landscape of aggressive wildlife and horrifying mutants. I mean, that's true for most of Vardenfell, but it's true for Red Mountain too. I can't even casually stroll between locations because the cliff racers will view me as injured prey and swoop in for the kill. Thankfully, NPCs don't know how bridges work, so we can use them to get a brief respite from the onslaught. Who even built these bridges anyway? How are they still up? This is gonna sound weirdly specific, but I know where we can get a single levitation potion. It spawns under a stool in Odrasal. We just gotta get there. Odrasal is on the eastern half of the mountain, and since we're stuck on foot right now, that means taking the long path around the mountain, following the trail past the other citadels. There's gonna be a lot of backtracking, to say the least. Really? I'm not even the Nerevarine in this continuity. I'm not wearing the Dark Brotherhood armor. That'd be too easy. Kogorun. There's some decent stuff in there, but can we actually fight our way through? Dagoth Uthal is too evasive. This is another thing for us to return to when our Longblade is trained a bit better. Innuendo, etc. One concern I have is weapon condition. Ebony isn't fragile, but it won't last forever. And since there aren't many smiths on this side of the ghost fence, as far as I'm aware, I either need to scrounge up some repair hammers and pray the dice rolls are in my favor, or hope the other Longblade option I'm thinking of is sufficient for the rest of the run. Part of me regrets not taking Conjuration and Shortblade. At least then, we'd not only be able to use the Daedric Wakizashi effectively, but we'd also start the game with the Summon Dagger spell. Durability is a non-question with conjured weapons. Every time you summon them, they have full durability again. But optimization is never really a priority with these runs. I'm more interested in creating a journey. Whatever. You get the raw attempts, warts and all. Unless I stream some of the attempts first, then I try again on my own, because I learn a bit from the streams. And you can come watch some of these runs being done live over on Twitch. I stream pretty regularly. Anyway, you may be wondering why I'm slapping this Corpus fella with quick attacks rather than charged attacks. Quick attacks do way less damage. Well, the sooner we get a higher Longblade level, the sooner combat won't be as difficult. The amount of XP you get per attack doesn't scale with the amount of damage you do, so weak hits preserve enemies for longer, letting me get the most XP out of the weapon. Your weapon's condition drains proportionally to the damage you deal with the weapon. I think it's 1-to-1 actually. You do 50 damage to the enemy, the weapon takes 50 damage to its condition. But if you swing the sword 50 times, doing 1 damage each time, it'll still take those 50 damage points to its condition, but you'll get XP 50 times. So if you're looking for XP, weak hits, not strong hits. Although, honestly, if you're just playing the game normally, just kill stuff. It's easier that way. I don't know what potions we can make with Skaithcraw, which, this is the first time of me actually reading the name. I thought it was Scraithcaw. We're gonna loot it anyway. The good old Skinner box. There's no immediate use for it right now, but there might be a use for it in the future. So we gotta hoard everything. Gotta keep pressing that button. Maybe it's not exactly the Skinner box I'm thinking of, but there was an experiment where if a rat pressed the button for food and it got food, it would only press it when it's hungry. But if it would press the button and it would sometimes get food, it would constantly press the button, even when it's not hungry. Some argue that that's why humans, when we go into elevators, we press the button multiple times even though one press is enough. Personally, I don't buy that theory too much, because I press the button multiple times, because sometimes when you press a button once, it doesn't it doesn't register it, so you just press it a few times so you know one of them had to go through. Sometime later, after contending with swarms of ash slaves and corporate stalkers and multiple pesters of cliff racers, we arrive at Odrasol to claim our prize, an itty-bitty Rising Force potion next to the skeleton. It's a shame we don't have a lockpick. We could pick the level 20 lock protecting Keening and never have to come back here. But we don't have a lockpick, and we certainly can't kill Dagoth Odros for the key. Not yet, at least. We'll come back later. I've been taking advantage of the constant cliff racer attacks and looting their plumes. They're used in Rising Force potions, and even if we can't find the other needed ingredients, we might find them, so like the Skaithcraw, hoard everything. Our first level, finally. Leveling will be super important. In an RPG, wow, what a surprise. We'll need a fair bit of health to defeat Dagoth, which is why we took the Lady Birth Sign. The personality boost is pointless, but the 25 extra points of endurance means 2.5 more points of health each time we level up. We started with 60 health, and I think 140-ish is a good goal, so we'll need to level up about 10 or so times depending on how many endurance attributes we end up allocating. The Salval Ancestral Tomb. It's not here that we needed the Rising Force potion, but there is something here worth checking out. As is typical with Ancestral Tombs, the place is full of leveled undead. We're level 2, so it's just a bunch of ghosts. Not a real problem. But at the end of the tomb is quite the intimidating NPC. Not an enemy, mind you, an NPC. If we were a vampire, Mastrius here would give us a quest to free him from the curse Azura had placed upon him. This is how you get the Daedric artifact Spellbreaker, Peryite's artifact in Skyrim. I don't even think Peryite is ever mentioned in Morrowind. He's in Daggerfall, so he exists, but no mention of him in Morrowind, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, Spellbreaker's a different story. Instead, we want to kill him for his ebony. The amount of armor that would grant is absurd. What's odd is that he can't move. I'm not sure if this is a bug, or if it's part of his curse. He's not just cursed to remain in this tomb, he's literally cursed to stay in place. Although if you wait, he'll become stuck in a different spot. It might be a bug. You might think because of this, it'd be easy to kill him. Ooh, he's even got a longsword as a weapon, so his death will be a huge boon to us. Taking advantage of his immobile state, glitch or not, doesn't feel right. When we fight him, we gotta stand next to him. We're not able to kill him right now without cheese, and I don't want to cheese him, so we'll come back later. A bit south and just a touch west of the Salval Tomb is another Ash Vampire Citadel, Terranulaw. Kagrenac's library, where you find Kagrenac's plan book and a whole bunch of skill books. I don't expect we'll be able to kill much of anything in here, especially since our ebony sword is more than half degraded, but we might as well do a cursory sweep, just in case there is anything interesting lying around that I'm not aware of. Many doors, Ed boy. Middle door leads to a squid face, and both side doors lead to Dwemer towers containing noodle snoots. No good options. We could fight them, run out of the dungeon, rest until healed, go back in, do a tiny bit more damage, and repeat that until they're all dead, but that's annoying. And what would we get from it? A 6th house amulet that serves no purpose, a bunch of useless Dwemer junk, various alchemy ingredients like gems, glass, and scrap metal. There might be a few pieces of Dwemer armor in the other tower, but I'd rather just move on for now and come back later. All these alchemy ingredients give me an idea though. We may not be able to find pairs of ingredients in order to make any potions, but we can still get a tiny bit of alchemy experience by successfully eating the ingredients. I like to assume the reason we fail to learn anything is because we gag, or we hurt our teeth while chewing because we're eating crystals and hunks of friggin' metal. One alchemy level will give us 2 intelligence attribute points the next time we level up. Hearth Heal costs 13 magicka to cast, and we only have 31 magicka. If we get our Magicka to 39, we'll be able to cast Hearth Heal 3 times before having to rest for more Magicka instead of just twice. You heard it here first, folks. Eating metal makes you smarter. Speaking of eating metal, Mouser Caverns is an all-you-can-eat ebony buffet. Although I guess ebony isn't really metal, it's more like a glass, but it's the blood of Lorcan, probably, whatever. Uh-oh, I've cornered myself. Okay, the Atronach is stuck on the cave geometry. Excellent, excellent. Oh, dang it. I think it's out of Magicka, though. Kill the rat. Heal. Damn it. It moved. Let me get... Ugh. I think we're going to have to drink that potion of Rising Force. We can't escape otherwise. But that's okay, because this is exactly where we needed to use it. Atop this stalagmite, amongst this ring of skulls, is a Daedric Claymore. Super strong longblade with high durability. With our new sword, we kill the Atronach and make our way out of the cave, eating up the rest of the ebony as we pass it. It's easier to swallow the rocks whole, I find. That's 16 alchemy, and we're now ready to level up. Strength, intelligence, endurance. I think we can handle those vampire citadels now. We have 60 in Longblade too, so we're not terribly inaccurate, even if our fatigue is empty. It's maybe slightly worse than a coin flip. The closest citadel to Mouser is probably the hardest one, Vemenal. Big and full of enemies. Knock it off. The Ash Slaves are still a pain, but at least they die in 2 hits. And the Noodle Snoots are, of course, trivial. They're just tanky. Delicious glass. We gained an alchemy level by transmuting the glass into small shards of bloody glass. I know I was going on about how I don't want to cheese the game too much, but squid faces are too hard to kill if you can't dodge their poisonous balls. Enter the cell, wait for it to cast, then leave the cell. Enter the cell again, wait for the cast, leave the cell. Repeat until it hobbles over to you, then the two of you can flail at each other helplessly. The Dremora is a nuisance, but not too much trouble. And then there's the skeleton, a named skeleton. He's got some enchanted items, but I've never actually checked what they are. By the time you're here, you really don't need upgrades. In a normal playthrough, at least. We lure him out and get hit by an absorb health effect. That is interesting. I don't think skeletons have spells, so that must be an item he has. The damage on an absorb health effect is decent enough, but I'm way more interested in the healing. Not only for the obvious reasons of not wanting to get killed by Ash Slaves, but we're gonna need quite a bit of it for when we assault Red Mountain. You'll understand soon enough. Veldo is carrying a Blood Feast shield. A heavy steel shield with absorb health 5 to 20 points for 10 seconds. That works out to 125 damage and healing over 10 seconds. That is amazing. As long as the enemy stays alive, with a single cast of the spell on this item, we can heal from 0 to full and then some. Unsurprisingly, Dagoth Vemin isn't too tough. Dodges magic, kite him a bit. Even if he clips us, we won't die. And with our new Blood Feast shield, we can heal that damage back pretty easily. Dagoth Vemin's easiness aside, he does drop one of the best items we can get for this run. Not Sunder. I'm not talking about the magical hammer, oh no. Even if we could use Sunder, it pales in comparison to the Amulet of Heart Heal. Fortify Strength, Fortify Hand-to-Hand, Shield, yeah, whatever. It grants 20 points of Levitate for 30 seconds. We're no longer groundbound. We can go anywhere. Anywhere around Red Mountain, that is. For this run, pretend the Ghost Fence has an Oblivion-esque anti-levitation legislation bubble at the top that prevents you from hovering over. Cliff racers don't hover, they fly, so that's why they can come and go, but we can't. The barrier doesn't stop them. It just stops people who are levitating. We're pretty yoked now, and Coggarun is right near Vemenal. Dagoth Uthal has been waiting for us to return, so let's go pay him a visit. We use our shield to suck out the last bit of life he has, loot his Belt of Heartfire, an item we're unlikely to actually use, and carry on further into the dungeon. We won't leave these caves, however. These tunnels do lead to the Dunmer stronghold in northern Vardenfell outside the Ghost Gate. But fleeing from our escape from New York style predicament, that would be... Listen, Stephen doesn't agree with his sentence, but he respects the institution of imperial injustice, just as Talos intended. We dispatch the Noodle Snoot, fail to avoid the Bone Walker's strength damaging spell several times before, finally, doing it in with our strength untouched, bonk the Fire Atronach, and enter the Bleeding Heart portion of the tunnels. We've got 2 more Fire Atronachs up ahead, so we bash one into the ground and run away from the other, praying the healing spell doesn't fail. It's probably safe. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Die! Whew. Great, an ash slave. Mind if I borrow a bit of your health, sir? Damn it, the Shadow Shield. Usually it's just the MacGuffin we have to fetch for Sul-Matul, Ashcan of the Ursulaku Ashlanders. You know the MacGuffin, the one for the Ashcan who also asks us to get the Bonebiter Bow of Sul-Senapul from the Wraith of Sul-Senapul in the Ursulaku Burial Caverns. That MacGuffin. The MacGuffin for Sul-Matul. The Shadow Shield. Sul-Matul's Shadow Shield. Typically we junk the shield after finishing that quest, but it might actually be useful for this run. It grants 20 seconds of invisibility and restores 5 points of fatigue per second for 20 seconds. It's also a Dwemer shield with a decent armor rating. We may not be able to block while wielding a two-handed weapon, but we can still equip it for its armor value. There's a few more pieces of loot to grab down here. This Master Lockpick, would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, and of course the Daedric Gauntlets. These two pieces of gear right here nearly doubles our armor value. Good deal if you ask me. Speaking of heavy armor, Mastrius has a set of ebony armor he's been holding for us. Remember we put it on layaway? Is that still a thing? What the hell? How'd you get here, little fella? Easy Longblade XP. Level 5. Bit more intelligence, strength, and speed. I wonder if there's anything in this Daedric ruin. Asal Kush Alit. Why are you guys here? Are your last names Corpus too? Nothing super interesting. But Hernfing has a set of steel armor. It's outclassed by Mastrius' ebony armor, but it might help us fight him, at the very least. Being a higher level than we were when we came here the first time, the undead in the Salval Ancestral Tomb, which has respawned by now, have taken on new forms. Instead of ghosts and skellies, we've got lesser bonewalkers. And a ghost. Mastrius. I've grown stronger since the last we met, but worry not. I won't treat this fight with any less reverence. A warrior until the end. So, what swords you got? A demon katana? Ooh, summons a bound longsword for 60 seconds. That's a sword with infinite durability, effectively. The katana doesn't take damage when you use the bound sword, and the bound sword comes back with full durability each time you summon it. And the charge on enchanted items replenishes over time automatically, so we could just wait and get more swords. We have infinite swords. You might think we're close to the end of the run, but this sword will still see a fair bit of use. The usefulness of the armor goes without saying. It's pretty heavy though. We can't wear all of it. There's a few options. Take what we can and leave the rest behind, level up a couple times and get more strength attributes, or become a vampire. Mastrius is a Quara vampire, so getting infected by his corpse would give us 40 more points of strength, 20 points as a base vampirism effect, and another 20 from his clan's bonuses. This isn't capped at 100 either, so if we have 80 strength before we become a Quara vampire, we'll have 120 strength afterwards. There are 3 different clans of vampires, one for each archetype basically, the mage, the warrior, the rogue. Check out the playthrough where I started as a vampire if you're interested. It's linked in the cards. So the problem with becoming a vampire right now is that it'll make leveling harder. Along with some of the attributes being boosted, vampirism also boosts some skills, such as acrobatics. Acrobatics is one of the easier skills to grind up. Find a corner to wedge yourself in, and spam the jump button. The lower the ceiling, and the tighter the corner, the better it is. Higher levels require more XP means it'll take more time, so becoming a vampire, which raises your acrobatics level, means it'll take more time to level up acrobatics, so it'll take more time to level up. So before becoming diseased, we'll bonk our heads on the awning of the Salval tomb and get a level or 2. What would you call this overhanging structure? I swear to Christ, if somebody says portal, I'm gonna... This grinding is serving 2 purposes, actually. First, it'll allow us to squeeze a few more drops of strength out of our inevitable vampirism. We won't be able to allocate strength points once vampirism boosts it above 100. Second, it'll also bring our health closer to the desired value. We're not just leveling for the sake of it. If we didn't need the hit points, this vampirism optimization wouldn't matter whatsoever. The astute among you may know exactly what I'm planning. The less Morrowind familiar may be a bit confused. You need a certain amount of health to jury-rig Wraithguard, but if we can't leave Red Mountain, why does it matter? What's the goal here? As for the totally unfamiliar with Morrowind, thanks for making it this far. I'm glad I can share this 20-year-old game with you. Level 6. Level 7. Honestly, jumping in this location actually sucks. It's hard to wedge yourself just right, but I don't really want to find a better location only to come back here in 15 minutes to become a vampire. So before we head out, let's fiddle around with Mastrius' body until we get diseased. Fighting vampires is one way of contracting porphyric hemophilia, but opening and closing their loot window also has a slight chance of imparting the disease. I don't know the exact odds, but it doesn't take us too long to get infected. So it's probably like 5%. We wait a few days and we're a vampire. Whoa. 122 strength, more than enough to carry all this ebony. We also get boosts to a bunch of other attributes and skills, but those aren't as important. Besides getting a few more levels, all we need to do now is return to Odrasol and get Keening, and then we can take the fight to Dagoth himself. Tyranolol is nearby though, so we head that way, killing every enemy we come across with quick, weak attacks so we can get as much Longblade experience as possible. Vampirism doesn't boost Longblade, so it's still in the 60s. I completely forgot about Vampiric Touch. Oh, that's more healing. I hadn't even considered this. Nice. I really underestimated how many forms of healing we would have behind the Ghost Fence. The only reason we're bothering with Tyranolol is for the skill books. Dagoth Tyranul drops the Amulet of Heart from, which doesn't help us whatsoever, but 2 of the 5 skill books in here bring us closer to another level up, Athletics and Alchemy. Doesn't sound like much because it's not, but the Longblade XP from killing everything on the way here certainly helps. I just like doing 2 things. Why mindlessly grind in one spot when I can grind and get some loot? Keening is behind that level 20 locked door we talked about earlier, and we have a master lockpick now, but it doesn't feel right to not kill Dagoth Odros. Keening, we're nearly there. It won't be long before we put an end to this Corporus quarantine, but we do need to do more leveling. These Dwemer doors are great for this. The corner has a really low ceiling, so you can jump super fast without sliding left and right. Level 8. We're now at 123 health. I think 2 more levels should be enough. I'm realizing something though. Our acrobatics is in the 80s now, so we'll need to do a lot of jumping to get another 10 levels. Our Longblade is a lower level, and we're specialized in combat, so combat aligned skills level faster. Acrobatics is not combat aligned, it is stealth aligned. If we could find an enemy that we can reliably hit over and over again without worrying about it dying or it killing us, we'd be set. An enemy that constantly heals any damage we do and doesn't actually attack. That'd be ideal. But where oh where might we find something like that? We drop into the vent of Dagoth Dagoth with a hyphen. The volcano, not the guy. We drop into the volcano, turn the Dwemer crank, and enter Dagoth the ruin, not the volcano or the guy. The few enemies scattered around this dungeon are worth a token amount of experience, but honestly, they are really not worth the trouble. The final fight, 123 health, 75 Longblade, level 8.
Dagoth welcomes you, Nerevar, my old friend. But to this place where destiny led, why have you come unprepared? What a fool you are. I'm a god. How can you kill a god?
Now watch what I'm gonna do. Leap off the ledge down to the bridge, instantaneously eradicate our momentum by casting Levitate with the Amulet of Heart Heal, and encroach upon the heart, causing Dagoth to spawn down here with us. By moving far enough away from him, he stops casting his spells and instead marches towards us. His pathfinding keeps him on the bridge, but only for so long. He eventually drops off the bridge, but we need him in the lava, not on Akula Khan's belt. Uh-oh. Amulet's out of charge. Well, this is awkward. Take 2. He wanders off the bridge and lands in the lava below. And it is lava, as I learned from the comments in a previous video when I made a snarky remark about what I wrongly assumed to be a trivial distinction between lava and magma. Magma isn't just subterranean lava. It has different properties than lava due to it being under immense amounts of pressure and having different kinds of gases dissolved in it. Anyway, with Dagoth on the rock water, we can freely smack the Heart of Lorkhan as much as we want. It heals something like 5,000 points per second, and does no damage whatsoever. We can sit here and train Longblade until we're satisfied. Part of me was hoping we'd be able to rest next to the heart, on account of Dagoth being so far below us. Figured he'd be out of range, but he's not. So if we want to level up, we gotta go back to the entrance. You will suffer. Dude, look out behind you. Idiot. So we got enough skill ups to ascend to level 9, but I think we need one more. 132 health might work, but 141 would be a touch safer. Although in retrospect, 132 would have worked because I thought the mortal wound damage was from 50 to 150, not 50 to 125. Don't worry about it. We're just gonna do the jumping and running thing again. 91 acrobatics, and a character level of 10. We have 142 points of health, not 141. Ooh, so much wiggle room. So the strategy here is simple. Sunder and Keening inflict the wielder with mortal wounds if they aren't wearing Wraithguard. The mortal wounds doesn't mean instant death, however. It means 50 to 125 points of damage every second or so, while the weapons are equipped, that is. If you've seen the Morrowind speedrun, you might think, oh, just unequip the weapon and then re-equip it and you'll be fine. That doesn't quite work. I believe it's an OpenMW thing, but there's almost a global value that tracks how long you've held either weapon, and when that total amount of time exceeds a certain value, you take damage. That's probably not exactly how it works, but that's the behavior we observe. The Mortal Wounds thing is the reason why we wanted so many healing options. The Blood Feast Shield, Hearth Heal, Vampiric Touch, it's probably overkill, but there's certainty in excess. All we gotta do is bonk the heart with Sunder, quickly unequip the hammer, heal up, and repeat with Keening. It's a bit trickier than it sounds actually. There is a tension that's not really betrayed by the footage. You need to press the keybind, swing the weapon, then switch to a different weapon quickly enough that you only get hit by the mortal wounds once, but don't hold on to it for so long that you limit the amount of time you can equip the weapons again, shortening the window you have to attack the heart, if that makes sense. And you also gotta be careful not to press the keybind too quickly, because then you'll cut off the weapon swing. There's also the issue of missing, and you don't want to get greedy. With Keening, 2 hits per wound is safe. 3 is risky, 4 is pushing it, 5 doesn't seem possible. I opted for 3 stabs, then I heal up. Not 3 hits, 3 stabs. If I miss, I miss.
This is the end. The bitter, bitter end.
Oh, that's it! We did it. Dagothr is dead, the heart of Lorkhan has escaped the realm of Mundus, and the Corpus Plague shall no longer spread. Within time, the quarantine will lift, and we, Stephen Corpus, may reintegrate into society, not as the horrific monstrosity they thought we were, but instead as a vampire. Huh. Oops.